Hi, I'm Bruce D. as in David Aruta. I served in the Marines from 1966 to 1968, and I served in Vietnam from October 67 to August 68. I was in the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, 3rd Marine Division. I fought with some brave men. The one guy that I'm really still very much in touch with is Rick Irvington, and we fought together and have been best friends ever since. I was a corporal in the end, in the Marine Corps. I served with some very brave guys, and ones that I still talk to are Mike Monroe, Rick Irvington, Jack McLean, and that's about it. But I'm just proud to have served in the Marine Corps. I live in Ewing, New Jersey. I have a beautiful wife and daughter and 3 other children, older children. I'm just so honored. And I hope if anybody sees this, they'll know that guys like I served in the Marine Corps and fought in Vietnam War. People I remember that I met at Marion, North Carolina at a LZ Loon reunion was Bill Lavin, Ralph, I don't remember his last name, Byron, and Harold. They had a very nice cabin, and we had a great reunion, LZ Loon reunion. That was a battle in Laos, and we lost a lot of men, and Rick and Irvington and myself and Brad Resner, who was nicknamed Popeye, were the ones who survived that battle. To Rick and I, D-Day was the 6th of June. Actually, our battle was on the 5th of June, but it really went into the 6th of June. And because of history with D-Day during World War II, our D-Day was in June 1968. And we were the forward gun position. We were on a point. Of course, that's where they put machine guns. And the perimeters went back from that around. We saw some very intense combat, close quarters combat. And Rick and Popeye and we were a great team, and we survived because Rick was the best machine gunner I ever served with, and did some very brave things there, and everybody did what they could to get out of there alive, which we did. It was just very intense combat, and guys around to our sides were in hand-to-hand combat that Rick witnessed when he went out to get more ammo. So it was just a very intense combat situation. And on the other side of the hill was Charlie Company. That's who the reunion is in Marion, North Carolina. And those guys saw a lot of combat. And my best friend at the time, Joe Klein, he was with Charlie Company, and he did not survive. Joe Klein and I were close friends right out of boot camp all the way through. And he was killed there. But he lives on in my memory. I visit his grave twice a year, which is about an hour from here. Once on Veterans Day and once on June 6th. So there's also other guys that I talk to and text with, and I've become close friends with Jack McLean, and so I'm happy to be alive. And I realized in the beginning, you know, you always have the guilt complex of why you survived and the guys around you didn't. That really what happened is in 1980, my first daughter was born, and then I've had 3 other children, and I realized that I was meant to come back to have children, and I believe that's was one of the reasons why I survived. I think that's about it.
Let me ask you one thing
Sure.
real quick. You were there at Cam Low?
Yes,
Can
I
you tell
was.
us did you know Larry Maxim?
No, I did not.
But you were there for that accident?
Yeah, I'm not someone who remembers a lot of names. You know, I just don't remember their names. I took a lot of photos, so I have some of the names behind the photos.
Right.
But they're not. The names don't really write off my tongue
Right.
to remember them. But their pictures and every one of them are in our memories. Sending you to the rear. And that day right there, I'm sure he saved my life. So Lieutenant Jackson, if you're going to hear part of this, if you're down to Marion, you are forefront in my mind, because if it wasn't for you that day sending me to the rear, I probably wouldn't have survived. So when I got to Dong Ha, because I was a machine gunner and had a 45, excuse me, the XO called me in the office like within the first week, and he was giving me guys who had been there too long. They really were starting to freak out. So he gave me papers, and I'd have to transport them to a psychiatrist in Da Nang, hand them the paperwork, and I would come back, and he would give me another guy, and I'd have to take him to Tan Son Nhut, to doctors there, and kept giving me guys every time I came back in a week or so. And then I went to Tan Son Nhut. So I traveled a lot during those last 2 months. And one of the times I met some Jersey guys at Tan Son Nhut. And they asked me, can you stay or something, And I said, well, yeah, I guess so. So I stayed with them, and it was one of the most amazing things I ever saw in Vietnam. I went to stay in their barracks. They had concrete sidewalks. They had air-conditioned quarters with actual racks. And so I met 5 other Jersey guys. And then we went to the EM club for the night. And I remember the gunny there wouldn't let me in because I was carrying a 45 and I had a knife from an NVA that I took off him the belt and wore that. And he wouldn't let me in the EM club with those. So he took them from me. But as soon as we were leaving the EM club, he gave them back to me. So that's another thing that was a good time that I remember. So yeah, it was called being a chaser. And I have met no one who served in Vietnam who ever heard of that term. So I think I was fortunate to be at the right time in the right place. And so it was a very interesting time. I have photos from the air choppers that I was the only one riding in it with the pilots up the coast. And so it was a very unique job title. And,
tell us about the time you got, tell us about the F-4 Phantom incident?
Oh, yeah, well, when I was traveling, especially when I was down Da Nang, I would walk the airfield while I was trying to get to the depot, airport, which is what pretty much was a wood shack. And I was walking around, and I wound up sitting on a 500-pound bomb on a skid, and some airman went by, took my picture, and then I was walking, and there was a fully loaded F4 sitting there, ready to go. And I was taking pictures of it, and the colonel and the major, who were the pilots, came up, and I wanted to thank them for giving us support, because the jets, the Phantoms, and the Crusaders from the air carriers supported us so much when we needed them. So I thanked them for that, for supporting us. Have a picture of the both of them, and then they said, "Why don't you get up in the Phantom?" So I walked up the ladder, sat in the front seat, and they took pictures of me in the F4. So that was a pretty awesome thing.
So you're pretty much the only grunt and nom that sat in the F4.
Yeah, I think so.
That I ever heard of.
Yeah, I actually have a photo of that. So it's
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
anyway.
All right, man. That's fantastic. Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fi to you and all the other Marines. Thank you, Rick. You're a brother.